Good afternoon, students. And so today we're going to go over subordinate word groups. And these are the word groups that form sentence fragments or introductory word clauses. So I'm going to go over this so that you know how to avoid sentence fragments. So today's lesson will be about subordinate word groups. Subordinate word groups. Subordinate word groups include phrases and clauses. Phrases are subordinate because they lack a subject and a verb. They are classified as prepositional, verbal, appositive, and absolute. Subordinate clauses have a subject and a verb, but they begin with a word such as although, that, or when that marks them as subordinate. Prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase begins with a preposition such as at, by, for, from, in, of, on, to, or with, and usually ends with a noun or noun equivalent. On the table, for him, by sleeping late. The noun or noun equivalent is known as the object of the preposition. Prepositional phrases function either as adjectives or as adverbs. When functioning as an adjective, a prepositional phrase nearly always appears immediately following the noun or pronoun it modifies. The hut had walls of mud, and so of mud is the prepositional phrase that modifies walls. Adjective phrases usually answer one or both of the questions. Which one and what kind of? We ask. Which walls or what kind of walls? We get a sensible answer, walls of mud. Adverbial prepositional phrases usually modify the verb, but they can also modify adjectives or other adverbs. When a prepositional phrase modifies the verb, it can appear nearly anywhere in a sentence. John walked his dog on a leash. And so on a leash modifies his dog. Sabrina, in time, adjusted to life in Ecuador. So in time modifies adjusted. So here the prepositional phrase acts as an adverb. During a mudslide, the terrain can change drastically. So here you have a prepositional phrase acting as an adverb because it is modifying the verb can change. If a prepositional phrase is movable, you can be certain that it is adverbial. In the cave, the explorers found well-preserved prehistoric drawings. And so in the cave represents where they found the prehistoric drawings. The explorers found well-preserved drawings in the cave. So in the cave modifies drawings. So here the prepositional phrase acts as an adjective. Adverbial word groups usually answer one of these questions: when, where, how, why, under what conditions, and to what degree. James walked his dog. How? On a leash. Sabrina adjusted to life in Ecuador. When? In time. The terrain can change drastically. Under what conditions? During a mudslide. In questions and subordinate clauses, a preposition can appear after its object. What are you afraid of? We avoided the bike. We avoided the bike trail that John had warned us about. Verbal phrases. A verbal is a verb form that does not function as the verb of a clause. Verbals include infinitives, the word to plus the base form of the verb, present participles, the ing form of the verb, and past participles, the verb form ending in d, ed, n, and en. So infinitive, to dream, present participle, dreaming, past participle, dreamed. Infinitive, to choose, present participle, choosing, past participle, chosen. Instead of functioning as the verb of a clause, A verbal functions as an adjective, a noun, or an adverb. Adjective. Broken promises cannot be fixed. Broken is the participle that acts as an adjective that modifies the noun promise. Constant complaining becomes wearisome. And so complaining is a noun. Can you wait to celebrate? Verbals with objects, complements, or modifiers form verbal phrases. In my family, singing loudly is more appreciated than singing well. And so singing loudly is a gerund, and it acts as a subject in this sentence. Governments exist to protect the rights of minorities. And so here, to protect the rights of minorities acts as an infinitive complement. Like verbal phrases function as adjectives, nouns, or adverbs. Verbal phrases are ordinarily classified as participial, gerund, and infinitive. So an example of a gerund phrase would be like, shopping is fun. Eating at a restaurant is expensive. So eating as a restaurant, that's a gerund subject used as a noun at the beginning of a sentence, and then a gerund subject is always singular. And then you could use a gerund as either a subject or an object. So you could say, I like eating hamburgers. Then eating hamburgers is a gerund used as an object, and then eating hamburgers is delicious is a gerund noun used as a subject. So gerunds can be used as subjects or objects. Participial phrases always function as adjectives. Their verbals are either present participles such as dreaming, asking, or past participles such as stolen or reached. Participial phrases frequently appear immediately following the noun or pronoun they modify. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. So abridging the freedom of speech is a participial phrase that modifies the noun law. Being a weight-bearing joint, the knee is among the most frequently injured. So being a weight-bearing joint modifies the noun knee. So therefore, that's a participial phrase that acts as an adjective because it's describing a noun. They may also appear at some distance from the word they modify. Last night we saw a play that affected us deeply, written with profound insight into the lives of immigrants. And so, written with profound insight into the lives of immigrants modifies the word or the noun play. So gerund phrases are built around present participles, verb forms that end in ing, and they always function as nouns, usually as subjects, subject complement, direct objects, or objects of a preposition. Rationalizing a fear, so that is a gerund subject, can eliminate it. The key to a good sauce is browning the mushrooms. So here you have the gerund as an object, also used as a subject complement because browning the mushroom modifies the subject good sauce. Lizards enjoy sunning themselves, and so sunning themselves is a gerund used as an object, and it's a gerund used as a direct object. The American Heart Association has documented the benefits of diet and exercising in reducing the risk of heart attack. And so reducing the risk of heart attack is a gerund phrase used as the object of a preposition. Infinitive phrases. Infinitive phrases, usually constructed around to plus the base form of the verb, can function as nouns, as adjectives, or as adverbs. When functioning as a noun, an infinitive phrase may appear in almost any noun slot in a sentence, usually as a subject, subject complement, or direct object. To live without health insurance. So that is an infinitive phrase subject is risky. Infinitive phrases function as adjectives, usually appear immediately following the noun or pronoun they modify. The 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. So the right to vote is a infinitive phrase used as an object. So the infinitive phrase modifies the noun right. Which right? The right to vote. Adverbial infinitive phrases usually modify or qualify the meaning of the verb, telling where, when, and how, and under what conditions an action occurred. Volunteers rolled up their pants to wade through the floodwaters. And so to wade through the floodwaters is an infinitive phrase used as an object in order to describe used as an adverb to describe the verb rolled. So why did they roll up their pants? To wade through the floodwaters. So an infinitive phrase can be used as an adverb. Appositive phrases. Appositive phrases describe nouns or pronouns. Instead of modifying nouns or pronouns, however, appositive phrases rename them. In form, they are noun or noun equivalents. Bloggers, conversationalists at heart, are the online equivalent of radio show talk hosts. And so conversationalist is an appositive that renames the subject or the noun bloggers. Appositives are said to be in opposition to the nouns or pronouns they rename. Conversationalist at heart is an appositive to the noun bloggers. Absolute phrases. An absolute phrase modifies a whole clause or sentence, not just one word. It consists of a noun or noun equivalent, usually followed by a participial phrase. Her words, reverberating in the hushed arena. The senator urged the crowd to support her former opponent. Subordinate clauses. Subordinate clauses are pattern-like sentences, having subjects and verbs, and sometimes objects or complements, but they function within sentences as adjectives, adverbs, or nouns. They cannot stand alone as complete sentences. A subordinate clause usually begins with a subordinating conjunction or a relative pronoun. So here you have subordinate clauses that are dependent clauses that have a subject and a verb, and it can act as an adjective or an adverb in a sentence. Adjective clauses modify nouns or pronouns, usually answering the question which one or what kind of. Most adjective clauses begin with a relative pronoun, who, whom, whose, which, or that. In addition to introducing the clause, the relative pronoun points back to the noun that the clause modifies. The coach chose players who could benefit from intense drills. So who could benefit from intense drills is an adjective clause or a subordinate clause used as an adjective to modify the noun players. That goes unread is the subordinate clause that acts as an adjective to modify the word book, a book that goes unread. What goes unread? The book. Relative pronouns are sometimes understood. The things that we cherish most are the things that we might lose. Occasionally, an adjective clause is introduced by a relative adjective, usually when, where, or why. The aging actor returned to the stage where he had made his debut as Hamlet half a century earlier. And so where he had made his debut, it acts as an adjective subordinate clause that modifies the word stage. The parts of an adjective clause are often arranged in sentences, subject, verb, object, or complement. Sometimes it is our closest friends who disappoint us. Who is the subject, disappoint is the verb, and us is the direct object. Frequently, however, the object or complement appears first out of the normal order: subject, verb, direct object. This can be, they can be the very friends whom we disappoint. And so whom is a direct object, we is the subject, and disappoint is the verb. So who is always used when you replace the subject of a sentence. Whom is used as the pronoun when we want to replace the object of a sentence, when the person becomes the object. Words that introduce subordinate clauses. Words introducing adjective clauses. That, which, whom, whose, when, where, why. Words introducing adverb clauses. After, although, as if, because, before, even though, in order that, since, so that, then, that, though, unless, until, when, whether, and while. And so words introducing noun clauses. That, which, whom, whose, what, whatever, whichever, whomever, how, if, when, whenever, where, whether, and why. Adverb clauses modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs, usually answering one of these questions: when, where, why, how, under what condition, to what degree. They always begin with a subordinate conjunction, such as after, although, because, that, although, unless, or when. When the sun went down, and that's the dependent clause, and when you have a dependent clause at the beginning of the sentence, you always use a comma. So when the sun went down, comma, the hikers prepared their camp. Complex sentence. Kate would have made the team if she hadn't broken her ankle. And so if she hadn't broken her ankle is an adverb clause because it modifies the verb would have been made. And when the sun went down is an adverb clause because it modifies the verb prepared. Adverb clauses are movable when they modify a verb. The hiker prepared their camp when the sun went down. And so here, when the sun went down, modifies prepared. So you can either say when the sun went down, the hikers prepared their camp, or the other way around, the hikers prepared their camp when the sun went down. And when the dependent clause is at the end of the sentence, you do not need a comma. When the dependent clause is at the beginning of the sentence, you need a comma. And so here, both of these dependent clauses modify a verb. So when a clause modifies a verb, then it's known as an adverb clause. Noun clause. A noun clause functions just like a single word noun, usually as a subject complement, a direct object, or an object of a preposition. It usually begins with one of the following words: how, if, what, whatever, when, where, whether, which, who, whomever, whom, whose, and why. So whoever leaves the house last. So here you have a clause that acts like a subject. Then you have the verb and the object. Copernicus argued that the sun is in the center of the universe. Here you have a clause that acts as a direct object. And so when you have a subject and when you have a clause that acts as a subject or as a direct object, that's known as a noun clause because nouns are used as subjects and objects. Loyalty is what keeps a friendship going. So keeps a friendship going, and this is the, what keeps a friendship going? Yeah, what keeps a friendship going, and then what is the subject? Keeps is the verb, a friendship is a direct object, and strong is the object complement because the object complement modifies the direct object. New Mexico is where we live. Here you have a clause used as an object. So when a clause is used as an object or as a subject, that means it's being used as a noun, and therefore it's known as a noun clause. So that ends this portion of the grammar on subordinate word groups. So I've got to admit that this is quite complicated because you have many different parts of speech that can be used as other parts of speech. And so you have phrases that can be used as adjectives, adverbs, and you have clauses that can be used as adjectives and adverbs and nouns. And so these are all the different kinds of subordinate word groups that can be used for many different parts of speech. So if you have any questions about this topic, feel free to email me anytime.